Hello, and welcome to this video on creating a Moodle quiz and editing quiz settings. After logging into your Moodle course, navigate to the Settings gear in the right-hand corner and choose Turn Editing On. Next, scroll to the module to which you would like to add a quiz. Click on Add an Activity or Resource, choose Quiz, and click Add. Creating a quiz is a two-part process. First, you'll create the face of the quiz by creating the quiz container and establishing settings. That is what this video is going to cover. The second part of creating a quiz is adding questions to the quiz. That part will be covered in another video, but it's important to remember that the step that we are covering right now is only step 1 in creating a quiz. The first thing that you will need to do is name the quiz. You can add a description in the box to clarify how students will be graded, or explain that the quiz is for practice only and that it will not be graded. Following this section, you'll see a collapsed list of settings. Click on the gray triangle next to a setting to view the options. The first section is timing. You can set a date to open the quiz by clicking the Enable box. Choose a date and time that you want students to be able to access the quiz for the first time. You can also click the Enable box for closing the quiz to set a date that the quiz can no longer be taken by students. Remember that times are given in a 24-hour format and that a time of 0000 means 12 o'clock a.m. If you want to give students until the very end of a day to complete the quiz, select 23:59 for 11:59 p.m. So for example, I can open this quiz on Wednesday at 8 a.m. and close the quiz on Thursday at 8 a.m. Therefore, students will have a 24-hour period to take this particular quiz. You can also enable a time limit for quizzes. I can set this to be 30 minutes, meaning that from the moment a student starts the quiz, they have 30 minutes to complete and submit it. The box below that determines what happens when the time expires. You have several choices under the drop-down menu. If you choose Open Attempts are submitted automatically, the quiz will be submitted for grading when the time expires, regardless of whether the student has completed the quiz. If you choose to allow a grace period, students will be able to review and submit their quiz up to the point they completed before the time expired, but they cannot answer any more questions. If you choose this setting, you can then set the period of time they will have to submit their quiz. If you choose the last setting, the quiz will not be counted unless the student clicks on the Submit button at the end of a quiz before the time has expired. The next setting is grade. The first criteria you can set is where the quiz grade appears in your gradebook. If you have previously set up categories in your gradebook, they'll appear here. The Grade to Pass setting is used for activity and course completion criteria, which are configured elsewhere. This setting also highlights pass grades in green and fail grades in red in the gradebook. Attempts allowed determines how many times students can take your quiz, and the following setting determines how grades are calculated for more than one attempt. For example, if this is a formative assessment and I want to give a grade for it, I can give students 3 attempts and use the highest grade in the gradebook. The next setting is layout, where you can determine how you want your quiz to appear to students. The default is set to show each question on a new page. However, you can change this to allow all or some questions on the same page. Following layout, you can determine how you want questions to behave within the quiz. If you choose Yes to shuffle within the questions, then the answer choices will be shuffled every time the quiz is opened. The next setting is important because it will determine the review options settings in the next section. The default is set to Deferred Feedback, which is most likely the option you'll want as it's most similar to an in-class quiz. With deferred feedback, students will answer each question, submit the quiz, and only after submission the quiz will be graded, and then the students will get feedback. The selections in the previous setting determine what you can choose in the Review Options settings. Because we chose Deferred Feedback, you'll see that some options in the Review Options area are not available. For example, during the quiz attempt, students can only see the attempt, meaning they can only see how they responded to the questions. This section is only used when quizzes are set to have immediate feedback after each question. Immediately after the attempt, you can allow students to see what they answered, which questions they got right and which they got wrong, the points they received, and feedback for each question, as well as feedback for the quiz itself. If you only want them to see their total points without showing them details of what they got right and wrong, you can choose Points and Overall Feedback under Immediately After the Attempt. This allows students to see their grade and the overall feedback, but doesn't allow them to see the details of what they got wrong and right. The immediately after the attempt option is only active for the first 2 minutes after the quiz is submitted. You can make the same selections for later, while the quiz is still open. This allows students to see these options up until the date and time the quiz is closed, if you've enabled those in the timing section above. If you have not set a close date and time, students can see these items anytime after they submit the quiz. The review options for after the quiz is closed are only available if you've specified a closing date and time in the timing settings. There are additional settings you can configure, but for now we'll keep the default. Note that you can use the Restrict Access settings to restrict students from taking the quiz unless certain requirements in the course have been met. The Activity Completion setting allows you to set up criteria under which this activity will be marked complete in a checkbox on the course homepage. If you're interested in these settings, you can contact the DELTA LearnTech Help Desk to get assistance. Remember, you can click on the blue question marks to find out more about each setting. Additionally, if you scroll down to the footer of the page, you can click on Moodle Docs for this page. This will pop up a window that shows the official Moodle documentation for the activity or resource you are trying to configure. So if you're configuring quiz settings, it will show the documentation for quiz settings for the correct version of Moodle. After you've configured all the settings, click Save and Display. This will take you to Part 2 of quiz setup, adding questions, which will be covered in the next video. If you have questions about quiz settings, please contact Delta's LearnTech Faculty Help Desk through their website, email, or phone number, or visit the link provided in the video description.